Greetings, fellow pizza squires. Tiki here.
And Jacob Wile too.
And welcome to another very, very, very delayed edition. So sorry about that. Of Tiki's Universe. It's the show where we react and respond to a whole myriad of current cartoon programming, even though we're doing a very bad job of getting it out in a timely manner. How are you, Jacob?
I'm doing all right, Tiki. How about you?
I'm doing good. I just wish that I was less stressed out about the whole uploading issue we've been having and the live streaming issue and curse you, everybody loves Raymond and so on and so forth. But I don't want to get into the semantics of that. But folks, I do very much apologize because it's the month of Milo. And my God, Jacob, it's like March is almost done, and we've only gotten to 2 episodes of Milo Murphy's Law so far. So we need to make up for lost time here. So let's get right into it. We're talking about secrets and pies, and we're also talking about Athletdecamathalon. Ha!
Yeah, you finally got it.
Yeah, I think I got it. All right. Okay, so Jacob, let's start with secrets and pies. I definitely think this is the better of the 2 episodes. I think Acadecamathalon or Mathalon or whatever. Wow, I already lost it. I think that episode is it's fine. It's not terrible or anything. I just think it's kind of one of the weaker episodes of the series, just compared to everything else we've gotten. But Secrets and Pies, I thought was really fun, especially because of all the all the reveals that we got about the characters.
Yeah, the quote unquote reveals.
So in Secrets and Pies, I just think had a good energy to it as well. Like we had, we have like the pistachio gentleman just worked in there, like oh, let me show you why this gig could be a good thing. You can just put your finger out of it and get a couple of pistachios along the way. That can't be helping things.
somehow Murphy's Law still affects them.
Right. I love how Murphy's Law is like just latched onto whoever delivers a pizza, and that's not just for this girl. That's for just pizza delivery people in general.
I wonder if it's because of DOG.
It could be. What if it was revealed that DOG was the secret behind all the bad luck this whole time?
That'd be pretty funny.
Like the DOG dog, like it's actually there's been a line of dogs throughout the Murphy family that are related to DOG.
That'd be hilarious.
Okay. And then speaking of another reveal, we have da da da.
after the two thoughts of both her and Zach thinking that I am a robot.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was a very, very well-timed gag, Jacob. That kind of reminded me of the gag where Melissa and Zach have the dreams about the tree and the the tree crashing through the house.
And then Milo's didn't is like, oh, that's weird. He wakes up like, oh, that's more like it.
Yeah, that was a really well-timed gag. You're right. With Milo and Zach both kind of like thinking that Melissa's going to be.
I was like, I think it was Melissa and both Zach and Melissa both had that dream, had that thought.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, I think how it goes is at first it was Zach who was terrified about the notion. And then it was Melissa who was kind of fantasizing about the notion.
and then she apparently her 2 front teeth are fake. Possibly, which my guess is probably due to some Murphy's Law incident. Who knows?
Probably. Which Jacob, I like this obviously isn't like a big game changer in terms of plot or anything like that, but I do think it's a cool thing for her character. It makes her just a little bit more quirky and relatable.
Yep, she's missing 2 front teeth, and but for some reason that still scares Milo. Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. So I love probably my favorite reveal and the most substantial reveal of the episode is the origin of the backpack.
Yeah, his old babysitters. That was pretty neat.
Yeah, and not only was it his old babysitters, but it was kind of like the thing that his babysitter used to kind of like ward off Murphy's Law.
And so he's using it, and apparently she passed it on to him to do the exact same.
Yeah, which is nice. I like that. That's a nice notion. Okay, I don't think the wiki has a screenshot of it, Jacob, but we have to talk about the lumberjack boy band. Oh my god. You know the great thing about it that I love, and this kind of translates to shows like Gravity Falls and Star vs. Force of Evil as well, which both have kind of like in-universe boy bands. The music is genuinely catchy.
I remember that. Yeah, totally. Chop, chop, chop.
Okay, now look.
Of course.
Obviously, the lyrics are meant to be awful. You know what I mean? It's meant to just be like a cornball concept of a song. But I'm just saying, like, it's kind of an earworm.
It is. I mean, like, remember this. Remember, these are the same guys who wrote over several hundred songs for Phineas and Ferb. They have pretty much
That's
have
true.
it.
That's very true.
They have pretty much writing catchy songs down to a science.
Now, remind me, Jacob, is it this episode or the next episode where we get the reference to the accordion?
So what?
It's this episode where at the end of the episode they're talking about forming a band, and Melissa's like, "Oh, I could play bass," and Milo's just like, "I have an organ or an accordion."
It was this one.
I'm like, Weird Al.
And Zach's like, somewhat cool.
Somewhat cool and kind
they
of
make a lot of
way.
They make a lot of references. Like, it's like, yes, we get it. He's played by Weird Al.
But I don't mind that though. I really don't.
I mean, I don't mind. I don't mind either. But it's just like he's always with the accordion. Like, yes, we get it. He's played by Weird Al.
I mean, because I kind of feel like this show is like the Weird Al Yankovic show in the same way something like Bobby's World was Howie Mandel's show in a way.
Seems logical.
Which is a weird comparison because I don't even know, like, Howie Mandel doesn't even play the main character in Bobby's World. I don't even know if he voices a character in Bobby's World outside of just appearing as himself, but whatever. You get what I'm trying to say. Like, Milo Murphy's Law, I feel like, is a good kind of poetic combination of sort of the archetypes and the style and the humor of Phineas and Ferb mixed with the sensibilities and some of the archetypes of Weird Al. And I think it's a really good combination in that regard.
And both are well known for their music, which is
of course.
Which is another thing.
Match made in heaven.
Indeed.
Yeah, I don't really have a ton to say about this episode. Like I said, I just think it's got a really good pace to it. Just the idea of Murphy's Law kind of, affecting anyone who dares even associate with the Murphys or, do anything for the Murphys is funny. Let me see.
And somehow the pistachio guys are always caught in the middle.
Yep, somehow. Oh my god, they're wonderful. They continue to be probably the most entertaining what the fuck characters in the show.
We actually find out more about them in some of the upcoming episodes.
I know. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, okay. We'll actually... Yeah.
So, just going through the... Anything else we're passing up? Besides this? Which is awesome. Yeah, just... I don't know. Like I said, this episode really does have a very good pace to it, a very good kinetic energy to it, which I feel like is kinetic energy is something that I use a lot when talking about the really good episodes of the show. And so I guess, what do you think of the character of Veronica? I guess that's kind of one of the last things we'll hit on before we switch to the other episode.
I don't know if we'll see more of it, but like the interesting reveal that that's not his backpack, but was actually used to be hers, and she passed it on. I thought, like you said, I thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of her, to tell you the truth. I mean, she's definitely not going to be like a major character or anything like that, but I could see her being sort of like a background character, kind of like... But
here's the question, though. like she said, last babysitter stand. It's like, how many babysitters did Milo have before?
I imagine at least several dozen.
Yeah, probably he probably had quite a he probably had quite a bit. You know that, or no one others would take him because of their reputation.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, Jacob, is there anything else we need to cover for secrets and pies?
I can't really think of anything. I mean, not really a lot of reveals or anything. I mean,
Well, like I
these are
said,
almost
the episode is kind of built
like,
around reveals, but
these
it's
almost
more sort of just fun reveals and big, like
and they're,
cliffhangery style reveals,
and they're almost like like unreveals. Like
which I
okay,
think is kind of the joke, which is good, well executed.
except the lumberjacks, which is kind of unexpected. Chop,
Okay,
chop, chop.
so with
Chop
that in
away
mind,
at my heart.
timber, timber. Okay, so with that in mind, let's go to the Athledecamathalon.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this one, Jacob. It doesn't really do it for me.
Yeah, I kind of. I mean, yeah, it's definitely not one of their best, but it did have some good moments though.
It's not like an outwardly bad episode, like let's say, to use a Star vs. Force of Evil example, like something like the Preston Changeo episode. Keep going
which
back to that.
which definitely had
Again,
weird.
with the Weird Al connection.
Yep.
But you know, it's I don't know. It's okay. Let's see. We have Professor Draco. Is this the first time we've seen Draco in the series?
I think we've seen him. He's seen him in like minor appearances in like the career day episode.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
He was the guy getting the MRI in the career day episode.
I mean, he's fun. He's fun. Of course, one of your favorite moments, Jacob. Uh,
He's like, "Why have you left me?" Like, why don't you just take down the pictures? Well, but also I hang my sheets.
so I don't know. To tell you the truth, my big issue with this episode is that it doesn't. How do I put this? It just doesn't really feel like it has an overall direction. It just feels kind of confused with where it wants to go with what it's trying to say. Like on one hand, you've got this kind of funny, vampire character who's I don't know, like he's definitely a focal point. And then on the other hand, you have this weird hybrid of the academics and the triathlon, which I don't know, Jacob. That stuff just doesn't. It just didn't really work for me. I just didn't really find it that funny or even really that creepy. I mean, I guess it's okay. It's a fun concept, I guess. It just didn't really do much for me. Like I didn't really think it was particularly engaging. And then the third part of the episode that I actually really love is, of course, I mean, come on, Jacob. I just this guy, man.
Like, why was there an electric band on in the soccer field? Yeah,
It
it was
was
the
the '80s, honey.
80s. The 80s was a weird time.
um, I think I'm going to officially call it that Mr. Murphy might be my favorite character on this show. Like, he's not the most outlandish character, he's not the most overly funny character, but as I've said before in other episodes, I just really like Mr. Murphy's attitude.
He's just an overall pleasant guy.
One of the things that I forgot to mention that I want to kind of highlight here, just because, is Murphy's family vacation. I forgot to mention the moment where, like, hey, family, this is a great vacation, huh? Are you kidding me? We're going down the middle of a river and we're about to drown. And then he's just like, and what a nice day for it. And I'm just like, that moment, Jacob, that moment it gets to me. He's just like, Mr. Murphy is just, he's so pleasant. He's so optimistic. I think in ways, he is kind of the heart of the show from what little we've seen of the show so far. And, the show's kind of in its infant state so far. Obviously it's only a few episodes in, but I really do love what they're doing with the Mr. Murphy character. And I think he is the highlight of the whole series for me.
And yeah, I have to agree. I mean, like the way his character could be. I mean, it could come off as easy like he doesn't care, but the way he's like written, it actually shows like he does care. He just goes with an optimistic look. It doesn't let anything get him down.
So of course his
Even when
big subplot. Go ahead.
even when a bunch of trophies fall on him.
Right. So I love his subplot this episode of like basically he got a participation trophy for Murphy's Law affecting literally everyone else on the field except for him, and him just kind of like
kind of like
just
kind of like what happened to Milo in rooting for the enemy.
in a way, yes, just by default kicking the soccer ball into the field goal.
Yeah, he scored the first point very early in the game, and somehow that got him an award.
And then he's like looking at the trophies like best ceramic soccer ball. They give a trophy for everything these days.
Yeah, says the guy who got a trophy for getting one goal.
Like the ultimate participation award.
Exactly.
Okay, let's see. So, yeah, I mean, anything else to say about the actual main event of the episode, which I think is probably the least interesting thing about the episode?
I mean, I thought it was like an interesting concept, and like probably not great upon execution, and the song wasn't really that catchy or anything.
Not really, no. Um, it's a decent concept. I just don't really think they did that much with it. I
I mean,
don't know.
admittedly, they could have done a lot more with the concept.
And I just
I
don't
mean,
think the
like,
humor's here. I mean, it's kind of
yeah,
creative,
I just don't.
some of the events they incorporate, but I just don't really think it's all that funny.
Yeah, like I said they could have been a lot more creative with the concept.
Well, like I said, even with the concept, I think the creativity is there with the events they do. Like the I do think it all works very well. It does kind of present an illogical logic of like, yeah, if you had to do educational events mixed with athletic events, this is kind of some of the fun stuff you could come up with. Like I said, my problem is that that's all it is. It's just kind of sight gags. There's no real punch to the gags for me, like there was in the previous few episodes we talked about with this show. Like there's no moment like, say, for example, in the last episode, we had that greatly timed bit with Melissa the robot. Like, there's just nothing that really stands out to me like that in this episode. There's just it just all feels very vanilla. I don't know. Is that a good word for it? It's just kind of like vanilla Milo Murphy's Law.
Admittedly, yes, and admittedly didn't really even pick up until Murphy's Law kicked in.
Yeah. Which, I mean, to be fair, vanilla Milo Murphy's Law is still, Milo Murphy's Law is a really good show. So even a more benign episode of the show is, it's better than a lot of cartoons out there. So, even still, it's like I said, this episode is certainly better than, let's say some of the episodes we've reviewed of Star vs. Force of Evil that we've actively disliked, which there aren't that many of, but when there are episodes that we actively dislike, they kind of tend to stand out since we love most of that show so much. So, like I said, I just think in general this episode just doesn't really have the punch of a lot of other Milo Murphy's Law episodes that we've talked about thus far. It just doesn't really stick out to me as much.
Admittedly, it just like feels like confined by its premise, basically.
Yeah, I agree. But like I said,
I
we
mean,
do
like,
have we do have. Go ahead.
yeah, that is a nice close. Like, you are my hero. Aw.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but what you were kind of in the middle of something though.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But yeah, I mean, we do have Mr. Murphy and Mrs. Murphy who are, like I said, kind of like in a similar vein to Mr. and Mrs. Diaz. Except I think they're, I would wager to say, like, as fun as Mr. and Mrs. Diaz are, especially Mr. Murphy on the show, is probably an even more effective character than Mr. Diaz in Star vs. Force of Evil. But overall, they kind of play the similar role, right? Like where they're not the main focal point, but when they are there, they definitely add a level of fun to the series.
Yeah, they could have easily written these as like idiotic parents, but they chose not to do that.
Sure, sure.
Which I have to admit is a definite plus in there, and a step in the right direction when it comes to cartoon parents.
And they could have just written Mr. Murphy as kind of like the clumsy idiot, you know what I mean? But Instead,
He's
they
like an
write
idiot
Mr.
who
Murphy
like
as like kind of this super inspirational guy who just has a really positive outlook on life, which I think is awesome.
a positive outlook despite his bad luck.
Right, which I think is a really good
and,
moral, and I think it's something I can totally get behind in an animated series.
and because of, and even despite this bad luck, he still manages to have a loving and caring family.
Yeah, totally, totally.
So I have to agree with I would agree with your critique on him.
Okay, so Jacob, I feel like we've pretty much said all we can say about these two episodes. Anything else you want to say about Acadecamathalon? Yeah, yeah. Anything else you want to say about the latter episode?
Nothing else I can really add to this one.
Okay, you want to give us a tease of the next episode coming up, or the next couple?
Let me check. Okay, let me check and see what the next few episodes are.
Just the next two.
All right, sorry, my internet's being weird. Okay, I got. All right. Okay, after there's the substitute.
Okay.
In the substitute, we obviously we get to meet a substitute, which which Milo helps. I don't really know how to explain it. Like, tries to teach her science class, but Murphy's Law obviously just goes affects things.
Sure, sure.
Plus we also get to see like more of the pistachio gentleman than usual in this episode.
Nice. Can't wait for that.
And then we have Timeout, in which we really learn quite a bit about the pistachio gentleman.
Okay, okay. I'm excited. I'm really excited now.
Basically, I believe that's the episode where we actually do learn. I mean, I might be wrong here, but I think that's where we actually learn why they do what they do,
Cool.
why they're protecting pistachios.
All right, well, that will do it, folks. But we are going to be recording the next two episodes immediately after this one. Hopefully, they'll be uploaded around the same time on the channel. So, thank you for your patience. And in the meantime, until next time, folks, remember, it's his world, and we're all living in it. Da, 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 da. Lumberjack
Chop,
boy
chop, chop.
band.